Ram Love to Loneliness, how Menglong's greatest passion became his greatest pain. He once sang about love as if he had seen its most beautiful side, the kind that makes the world softer, brighter, and endlessly full of meaning. Menglong, with his tender voice and soulful eyes, became the face of love stories that melted hearts across screens and stages. But behind the delicate lyrics and the charm that defined his art, there was a quiet truth he never managed to hide completely. Love, for him, was not a fairy tale. It was the fire that kept him alive, and the same fire that eventually consumed him. Those who knew him said he loved too deeply. He didn't just fall for people, he fell into them, entirely, dangerously, with no safety net beneath. It was his greatest strength as an artist and his greatest weakness as a man. Love gave his songs their heartbeat, but when that love faded, it took the heartbeat with it. He met her in a time when his world was loud, cameras flashing, fans screaming, every step measured and monitored. She was quiet, soft-spoken, nothing like the chaos that surrounded him. She wasn't a celebrity or a model, just a writer who believed that silence could be more powerful than sound. He was drawn to her calmness, like a man lost in a storm searching for shore. In her he saw peace, the kind that fame could never give him. Their love began quietly, away from headlines, away from eyes that judged. They found joy in ordinary things. Late-night drives with no destination, mornings spent with coffee and unspoken words, the comfort of knowing someone understood your silence. For a man like Menglong, who lived in front of millions but felt unseen, her presence was everything. She saw him not as a star, not as a public figure, but as a man who needed to be loved gently. But fame has a way of turning everything sacred into spectacle. Their relationship became a secret he had to protect, a fragile truth wrapped in lies told for the sake of his image. He could not post about her, hold her hand in public, or even call her his, not without risking everything he had built. And as the months turned into years, the love that once healed him began to suffocate. She started to fade from him, not because she stopped loving him, but because she grew tired of hiding. She wanted to be chosen in the light, not in the shadows. The same silence that once connected them became the wall that separated them. And you, despite his efforts to hold on, began to lose her, not all at once, but slowly, like the dimming of a star. His friends noticed the change. The bright smile that had once filled every room dimmed. The man who used to hum songs between takes now sat in silence, lost in thought. His notebooks, once full of melodies and dreams, became places of confession. He wrote about her constantly, about the emptiness that crept in after she left. "Love doesn't end," he once told a close friend. "It just turns into something you carry alone." The transformation was gradual but irreversible. The same love that had inspired his most beautiful creations became the wound that refused to heal. Every song he sang reminded him of what he lost. Every scene he acted out felt like a reflection of his own heartbreak. He was performing love stories while dying inside from one that had ended. There were nights when he called her number but never pressed send. Nights when he scrolled through their old photos and whispered apologies no one would ever hear. He wrote letters he never mailed, songs he never released, each one a fragment of his love that had nowhere to go. His fans saw him as poetic and mysterious, but those close to him saw something deeper, a man consumed by the very emotion he had once celebrated. As time went on, loneliness became his closest companion. The silence he used to share with her turned cold. He began spending more time alone, withdrawing from friends and colleagues. When people asked if he was okay, he smiled, as if he had rehearsed the answer 1,000 times. But beneath that smile, something was breaking, quietly, invisibly. He once said in an interview, "Love is supposed to make you stronger, but sometimes it makes you so fragile that even breathing hurts." At the time, fans thought he was being poetic. No one realized it was a cry for help. His words were not lyrics, they were warnings disguised as art. In his final months, Yu Menglong was a man caught between memory and despair. He couldn't forget her, and he couldn't move on. Every love song on the radio felt like a reminder. Every script he read seemed to echo the story he was living, a story of holding on to someone who had already let go. Friends tried to reach him. Some said he needed a break. Others suggested therapy, but you kept insisting he was fine. He poured his feelings into music instead, recording late into the night, chasing a kind of peace that always slipped away before he could reach it. He wrote a song, one that few people would ever hear, about a love that turned into loneliness. The lyrics spoke of promises broken not by betrayal, but by time's silence and fear. In that song, he confessed what he never said out loud, that his love was both his light and his downfall, that the woman who once made him feel infinite had unknowingly taken with her the last piece of hope he had left. It wasn't her fault, not entirely. Love, for them, had been real, but reality itself was too heavy for it to survive. When news of his death broke, the world was stunned. Fans flooded social media with disbelief, grief, and heartbreak. They played his songs over and over, trying to find answers in his lyrics. Some said he had left signs in his music, the sadness, the longing, the quiet confessions hidden between lines. Others believed love had broken him in ways no one could understand. But those who knew him knew the truth. Yu Menglong didn't die because he was weak. He died because he loved with a depth that few could endure. His heart was a storm of passion, tenderness, and pain, and when the person he loved walked away, the storm never stopped. The love that once gave him life became the weight that pulled him under. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was exhaustion, from pretending to be okay, from smiling through pain, from carrying a love that no longer had a place to rest. His death became the final chapter of a story that had always been about love, not the glamorous kind seen on screen, but the kind that leaves scars deeper than words can describe. People called it tragedy, but for you it might have been peace. The silence he sought all his life finally came, not the cold silence of loneliness, but the stillness of release. And yet his love did not die with him. It lingered in the lyrics of unfinished songs, in the eyes of fans who still play his music at midnight, in the woman who still keeps the letters he wrote but never sent. She once said in a rare interview, "He loved me too much, so much that it broke him." And I will never stop wondering if love is meant to save us or destroy us. In the end, Yu Menglong's story wasn't just about love and loss. It was about the dangerous beauty of feeling too much. His passion made him unforgettable, but it also became his undoing. He lived and died by the same emotion he spent his life trying to understand. There was a time when Yu Menglong's laughter could fill a room. He used to say that love gave him purpose, that every song he wrote, every scene he acted, was a reflection of someone who had once made him believe in forever. But after she left, even laughter became an effort, a performance he no longer had the strength to sustain. The world saw him smiling, but those close to him began to notice the small cracks beneath the surface, the late nights, the sleepless eyes, the way he lingered too long in silence. He tried to carry on as if nothing had changed. He kept working, showing up to sets, greeting fans with his signature gentleness. Yet behind the scenes he was unraveling. His phone became a museum of memories, unread messages, voice notes from her he couldn't bring himself to delete, and photos that still made his heart ache. He once told a friend, "Every time I try to forget her, I end up remembering her in a new way." Some nights, he'd drive around the city until sunrise, taking the same route they once drove together, the quiet roads that used to echo with their laughter. He would park at the hilltop where they once watched the city lights flicker below, her head resting on his shoulder, her hand tracing circles on his arm. Back then, he thought that kind of peace could last forever. Now he sat there alone, the same city lights blurring through tears, asking himself how love that pure could turn into pain that deep. He found himself returning to old habits, playing unfinished songs on his guitar, scribbling fragments of lyrics in notebooks that never saw the light of day. One of those notebooks held a page that read, "I thought love would save me, but maybe it was never love's job to save anyone." Those who read his words later said it felt like he had already written his goodbye long before he left. Every melody he created became a memory of her. His music sessions grew heavier, slower. Sometimes he'd stop mid-song and stare at nothing, lost in thoughts too painful to voice. His producer once recalled finding him sitting alone in the studio, his head down, whispering to himself, "She used to wait for me to come home. Now no one's waiting anymore." The transformation was haunting, from a man who once found poetry in every sunrise to one who saw every sunset as a reminder of endings. He began to distance himself from people, from conversations that forced him to pretend he was okay. The brightness that once surrounded him dimmed, leaving behind a shadow of the man fans adored. He wasn't angry at her. That was the tragic part. He never blamed her for leaving. In his heart, he still understood her reasons. She wanted a love she could live out loud, not one buried under contracts, cameras, and fear. And even though she had moved on, he continued to love her in silence, a love that became heavier with every day that passed. Those close to him noticed how he carried pain like a secret, quietly, gracefully, almost beautifully. He never lashed out or spoke bitterly. Instead, he smiled through it, hiding the storm behind gentle eyes. It was that softness that broke people most after he was gone, the realization that his kindness was not peace but endurance. In the months leading up to his death, he wrote another song, one that would later be found in a folder on his laptop titled, "For the One I Couldn't Keep." The lyrics were simple, devastating. "If love was a promise, then I kept mine, even when you forgot yours." Those who heard it described it as his most vulnerable work, raw, trembling, almost like a conversation with someone who would never hear it. He never released it, perhaps because some songs were not meant for the world. They were confessions meant only for the ghosts we carry. There were moments when he tried to heal. He traveled, read, even laughed with friends. But the emptiness followed him everywhere. Love had changed him too deeply. It had carved itself into his soul. The same emotions that once made him an extraordinary artist now made existence unbearable. He once told a friend, "The hardest part of heartbreak isn't losing someone. It's realizing that you lost yourself with them." The day before he died, he was seen walking alone by the river. Witnesses said he stood there for a long time, looking at the water, as if trying to find answers in its quiet reflection. Later that evening, he texted a friend, "Sometimes I wish I could start over, not to change what happened, but to love her again, even knowing how it would end." No one replied in time. When the news broke the next morning, the world froze. It didn't make sense, not for someone so full of life, so talented, so adored. But love doesn't care about logic. It doesn't spare those who feel too deeply. And Menglong had always felt more than most people could ever understand. Fans flooded his social media with messages, apologies, confessions, gratitude. They played his songs on repeat, dissected every lyric for hidden meanings, every smile for unspoken sadness. Some posted the words he once said in an interview, "I think real love hurts a little, because if it doesn't, it's not real." That quote now read like prophecy. The woman he once loved never spoke publicly about his death. But months later, someone spotted her at one of his memorials, standing quietly among the crowd, eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. She left a single white rose at his photo and walked away without a word. Those who saw her said the silence that followed was heavier than any cry could have been. In the end, his story wasn't just a tragedy, it was a reminder that love, no matter how beautiful, can become unbearable when it outgrows the heart that holds it. That passion, when left unchecked, can turn from warmth to wildfire. Menglong's greatest gift was his ability to love completely. His greatest curse was that he never learned how to stop. Even in death, he remained what he always was, a poet of emotion, a man whose soul was too tender for a world that doesn't understand sensitivity. His music lives on, carrying traces of the love that both made and destroyed him. When fans play his songs now, they don't just hear notes. They hear confessions, echoes of a man who loved until it hurt too much to stay. Menglong's story will forever remind us that love, while beautiful, can also be a kind of quiet destruction, one that doesn't always leave visible scars, but leaves its mark on the soul. He gave everything he had to the people he loved, to the world that adored him, and to a woman who became both his muse and his undoing. He once wrote, "If my love must end in pain, then let it be beautiful pain." And in that he found his truth, a truth that lingers in every note, every lyric, every heart that still breaks when his songs play in the dark. Menglong didn't die because he stopped loving. He died because his love became too heavy for one heart to carry. And though he's gone, his story remains a haunting testament to how something so pure can also be the thing that breaks us beyond repair.